It's a great morning, everyone. We've got 2 Monday night football games. We've got Major League Baseball playoffs, and we've got all of you right here on the Early Edge. Brought to you by BetMGM. Be legendary, or I should say, make it legendary. We've got a legendary show. Let's take a look at the recap screen before we bring in the prop stars of the show. 7-10, a little bit of funny business with Danny Brasco's, though his one loss, he went 2-1. But I have to say, the Almeida thing with his hand injury and all of that, I know he tweeted something out after the Early Edge, but he goes 2-1. I missed my picks. That teaser wasn't very good. Of course, my player props went 1-1, and I've got another one tonight up at SportsLine. SportsLine picks 3-3 overall. We got to do a little bit better than this. And we've got the team to do it right here on Monday Night Football. It's PropStarz. It's Mike McClure. It's Larry Hartstein. And it's the Snyper, Matt Snyder. Proppy, I got to go to you. That was a 7-10 recap screen. And I always say, the Early Edge is a microcosm of the picks you can get on SportsLine, or for that matter, the picks you can get on the NFL Prop Show that everybody can watch on CBS Sports Network or on this YouTube channel after the fact. I got to give you props. Pun intended, because you swept. You went 4-0 on your props for Sunday. Talk to me, my friend.
Yes, yeah, it was a nice weekend, 4-0 at PropStarz HQ. Hello, gentlemen. Hope everyone's having a great morning. Hello, chat. Hope you guys are doing well. This is my favorite time of year, NFL season. We've got NBA season literally right around the corner, so I'm fired up. MLB Playoffs have been awesome as well, so yeah, I'm just stoked.
Yeah, good stuff. And again, I have to emphasize that show we do on CBS Sports Network. Anybody can watch it, and the lines move so quickly after we put our bets in on SportsLine, sometimes giving those bets out on the show. Those lines move very quickly. So make sure you lock in on that NFL Prop Show and at SportsLine. Larry, give me some reaction to Sunday before we look ahead to these 2 Monday Night Football games. Anything that jumps out to you?
Oh, there's so many things, Sia, that jumps out at me. First of all, Alex and I surviving and Circa Survivor, moving on to week 7. Rumors of coaches being fired, they weren't true, but they probably should have been true. I mean, how long is it going to go on in Cleveland and Tennessee? And are the Chiefs back? It helps when you don't get a single penalty called against you. That is a big deal. But seriously, I was just taking a jab at Mikey there. But seriously, with Rasheed coming back, and when you can lose your starting left tackle and you have a backup to come in and basically hold the fort, and there's no difference, that was a pretty impressive performance. And what they did to the Detroit offense, I mean, I've never seen Amon-Ra St. Brown drop that pass. I don't ever seen him have a drop that bad. But still, very impressive from the Chiefs. They're back to 500.
And who we're going to have Rashee Rice back soon as well, as soon as next week, I believe. So this offense is going to be very hard to stop. Mike, your response to the Chiefs, because, when you look at the NFL as an entire, like just the landscape of the NFL, I just don't think there's any dominant teams this year. I mean, we had our impressions about Green Bay, about Detroit. They've taken at least a small step back. It does now look, now that the dust is settled through 6 weeks or almost through 6 weeks, that the Chiefs are like a top 2 or top 3 team in the NFL. And I understand the record doesn't reflect that, but it certainly looks that way.
Yeah, certainly looks that way. It gets old to talk about him because he's so good and has been, but Patrick Mahomes individually is playing really well. And I think that is something that's still important. But as Larry mentioned, yeah, it's nice when you have a backup tackle that you paid 2 years, $30 million for a backup to not even play. Just shows you how important the position is overall in the NFL, frankly. But yeah, I think that Kansas City looks really good. It's tough to go in and win primetime games in that environment. The Lions almost had it. Now, I would say if the Lions had scored the touchdown on the opening drive, particularly ran the football in, maybe we get a different outcome on that game. But if you listen to the crowd, they took the crowd out of it. Lions did exactly what they needed to do with that 9-minute opening drive. Just weren't able to really continue it. So for me, I think it's just a lot of individual props to Mahomes. He just continues to get it done.
He's so good. PropStarz, go ahead.
There's a certain team in the state of Florida that's sitting atop a division at 5-1 with an MVP caliber quarterback who's been playing absolutely brilliant football. We talked about him at length in the preseason. Baker Mayfield, you could get him to win MVP at plus 3,500. Those odds have shortened to as low as plus 400. So Baker is certainly playing fantastic football. The Bucs are 5-1. I think they're potentially, if they can get healthy, as good as any team in the NFL.
Not only did PropStarz rep the Bucs in this show, we have the group ride, of course, Bucs to win the NFC South. But not only did PropStarz rep the Bucs to potentially win the NFC, but he was also repping Baker Mayfield, not just preseason, but on the NFL Prop Show, which we touch on futures there, and on this show, of course, as well. But nobody has sung the praises louder of Baker Mayfield than one Alex Selznick. So props to you, my friend. Sniper, before we get into picks, and we're going to start with Mike McClure's first half team total trademark. Talk to me about forget about baseball for a second, because I know you have baseball picks. Caleb Williams, your guy, is playing Washington at Washington. A bit of a revenge narrative if you want to buy into that. How do you think he's going to fare tonight?
I think he's going to play very well. He's been really good overall this season. I thought, like, after the first drive in the Vikings game in week 1, he was pretty bad. But ever since then, I thought he's been very good overall. There will be an occasional overthrow. That's just what he does. That's part of the deal. But generally speaking, I think the mass narratives of, oh, he's a bust are way, way, way overblown. And we're going to see that tonight. I do think if the Bears win, then we're going to hear a lot of, oh, the Commanders are just bad, because somehow that's just what happens with my teams every single time they win a big game. It's only because the other team is awful. We already started to see it with Oregon over the weekend. IU goes into Oregon, IU wins, and I started to see a bunch of tweets about how, well, Oregon hasn't really beat anybody because Penn State sucks now. So Oregon does it. Every single time my team wins, it's just because the other team's bad. So I'm just expecting if the Bears win, it's just going to be because the Commanders fell apart.
Shout out to JMU's own Kurt Signetti, because that guy can coach football. All right, Mike, you can bet football. Let's talk about a Bills first half team total to kick off the bets. And by the way, everybody, put your questions in the chat for Monday Night Football or for the MLB playoffs. Mike, you've got the floor.
Yes, like the spot for Buffalo in terms of a bounce back, but I like them early offensively, scripted drives. Look, the number's 13.5. I generally only play these 12.5 or 13 in a rare instance. I do think we get 2 opening half touchdowns here, though, from Buffalo, starting with that opening drive. I like them in this spot. It's not a week off per se, but they had a little additional time with the longer week to play on Monday Night Football. It's not a particularly difficult travel setup, not a particularly difficult environment to go in and play in as well. So the controlled environment, the dome, never going to be a bad thing for this offense. But I really think defensively is the story here. Atlanta on paper has been very good defensively. I think it's propped up a little bit by the situations that they've gotten to play. But as we say always in the NFL, particularly in the first 6 weeks of the season, you can only play who they line up on the other side of you, who they schedule. They've taken care of business defensively in those matchups. However, I think this is a different test here with Buffalo coming off a loss, looking up, seeing Kansas City winning games again, the AFC. These games are important here for Buffalo. So I like them for a hot start. I like them to win this game outright and cover tonight. But I'm going to play them here in the first half because I expect them to score on their opening drive, putting them in position to have between 14 and 17 on the board in the first half.
All right, Bills first half team total over 13.5 at -114. Sniper, I can't help but see you go back and forth in the chat about Caleb Williams. You want to expand on anything that you put in there?
Not really. I understand it. Like, there are people very invested in him being a bust for whatever reason. He paints his nails. He was the number 1 overall pick. He went to USC. Whatever it is, there are people very invested in him becoming a bust and are very excited about it. So it is what it is.
I'll just be honest. I think he's more of a bust than a guy that's going to be a great quarterback. Although bust, I think, is too big of a word.
I was going to say, I will totally push back against bust. I mean, but that could be a subjective term.
Right.
I definitely don't think he's going to be bad.
That's fair. That's fair.
Like, he's going to be a good quarterback. It's just, if you want to say Jaden Daniels is going to be better, Bo Nix is going to be better, Drake May is going to be better. Okay. But I definitely do not think he's going to be bad.
Okay, fair enough. Drake May looks really good. Proppy, that was one of the props you hit yesterday. In fact, the prop show has been all over Drake May. You had him over his passing yards. I had him as my primary. If you watch FFT DFS, he was my main stack was Drake May and pretty much anybody. But I said I'd be playing him naked, and I almost had a few outrights yesterday. Do not forget to tune into FFT DFS with me, Mike McClure, and Meg Schaup every single Thursday. It's in your podcast feed Thursday by about 1 o'clock. All right, PropStarz. Let's get to, but we're going to stick with the Bills actually, because if Mike is right and we have a fast start from the Bills, it could come via the arm of Josh Allen or the legs of Josh Allen or their primary running back. Talk to me about James Cook.
Yep, James Cook. We're going to go over 70.5 rushing yards for James Cook. I think this spot really sets up nicely for a bounce back spot. This is a big number for James Cook, but I'm very encouraged by his snap share. He touched over 70% in back-to-back weeks. That's something that's eluded James Cook throughout his career, has been his usage. He's always been highly productive when he's been on the field, but he's been a part-time player for the majority of the career. But now the Bills are finally leaning on him, and it's paying off massive dividends. So again, back-to-back weeks with 70% snap share. That's as high as pretty much any running back you'll find in the NFL. That's incredibly encouraging. But then we look at the advanced metrics under the hood, his success rate. He's 5th in the NFL. I love this spot for him as well. I think this is a very good matchup against a Falcons run defense that's not very good. Their pass defense has been absolutely excellent, but they're a run funnel. And I think this is a matchup where Buffalo, where they're 4.5-point favorites, are going to lean heavily on James Cook, who I expect to have a lot of success tonight. So let's go over 70.5 yards.
All right, we're going over 70.5 yards. I had a really good comment here that I want to highlight. It's the Big E89. Larry, I'm going to go to you real quick here. He says, safe to say the entire world is on Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt rushing yards over 67.5 tonight versus that porous Bears rush defense. First of all, I want to point out to everybody that if you are a member of SportsLine, you're getting some great closing line value, just like we did with Geno Smith yesterday, where FanDuel put out a line of 230.5 passing yards. It went down to 225. I was able to get that in at 230. I was also able to get JCM, Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, in at 63.5 rushing yards on Friday, put it out on the prop show as well. It has climbed to 67 or 70. But again, that's an official play for me at 63. Larry, your thoughts now that it's 67.5?
Still looks good, lean over. I mean, this is, if not the worst rush defense in the league. Sorry, Sniper. One of the bottom, rush defenses really in the league. And with Jaden Daniels back, it just makes him so deadly because you have to worry about the quarterback as well. What is the status of Chris Rodriguez?
It's a good question. I think he's still, pun intended, questionable. Okay. And it's a calf injury that always has me leaning towards the players not going to play. I will say that if he plays, I don't think he gets a lot of run. I still think we get Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt with 60 to 65, maybe even 70% of the actual, not snaps, of the actual rushing attempts, just because of how efficient he's been. Any thoughts, PropStarz, on JCM?
Fantastic matchup, as you guys both mentioned, and JCM has played exceptional football. He has earned a bigger role in this potent Commanders offense. I agree. Having Jaden Daniels back, it's similar to the Lamar Jackson effect in Baltimore. It's just a very running back friendly offense. So I do expect him to be highly productive. I think the number has become efficient around 67.5. Tremendous value at 63.5, however, which is why you really need to follow early and jump on these lines sometimes right when they populate. But I think he's set up for a really big night, a fantastic matchup, and he's looked incredible.
I think another angle could be longest rush for Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt as well. I'd say the same about Bjian Robinson. Again, your questions we can answer in the chat. Get a second chance tonight. I always love these. You can get your money back in cash if your first touchdown scorer scores second instead. Bet on any pro football player to score the first touchdown of the game. If you're right, you win. If your player scores second, you get your stake back in cash. Again, that's the get a second chance on a first touchdown score bet. Let's get to some sports line picks, and then Proppy, I'll go right to you. Michael Penix Jr. over 6.5 rushing yards. That's an interesting one. -110. That one courtesy of RJ White and the Chicago Bears. +5. Matt Snyper is going to like this. -118. Both Brady Cannon and Emory Hunt like this. The Bears +5. PropStarz, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to touch on Bjian Robinson a bit. A lot of questions about him in the chat. Bijan's having a fantastic year, but it's really his receiving ability that makes Bjian truly special. Running the football, he's been a little bit inconsistent, but he really makes a massive impact as he's as good as any receiving running back since he stepped foot in the NFL. If we look at a lot of the advanced metric targets per route run, also yards per route run as well. So yeah, Bjian, I think if we're going to play him, I'm most comfortable playing his combination line. And again, it's game script proof. And even when the Falcons are ahead, they target him heavily in the short area passing game because of his skill set and because he's the engine of the offense. So they design the offense really around Bijan's skill set. So again, if we're going to play Bjian, most comfortable playing his combination line.
Yeah, it's one of the few times, PropStarz, you're going to invest in the combination line because you don't like to lean on the receiving yards for a running back. But in this case, to your point, this guy's got a 17% target share. I mean, it's crazy. We know Darnell Mooney's going to be out. I don't know that that's going to affect necessarily Bijan's targets, but it's going to be a condensed share to Drake London, maybe Kyle Pitts. I don't know how much work like Ray McLeod or Kadarius Hodge are going to get, but we know Bijan's going to get some receiving yards. And if they can scheme him in the open field, sky's the limit there. So I was actually considering Bijan's rushing prop of 73, 74.5. I've been considering it all week. I think the fact that Ed Oliver is back makes me hesitate there a little bit, but I do think the combination line is at least worth looking into. PropStarz, go ahead.
I will say regarding Oliver, I did look into this closely. Oliver last season, this season, minimal sample, but last season, really his run defense was middling, much more of a pass rusher, traditional three technique that collapses the pocket versus the guy that I think is going to really make things difficult for Bjian. So I do think this is a matchup for Bjian that he will have success in.
Mike, real quick, because we do have a play against the spread here, and it's the Brady Cannon and Emory Hunt play, Chicago Bears +5. I might have even seen 5.5 in some places. Maybe I'm confusing that line with no. I did see 5.5 in some places. Mike, did you see in your model any value one way or the other? This does seem like a lot of points. Oh, I think you're on mute.
I am on mute today. Sorry about that, guys. I had a little value on the other game. I made this one actually a little bit on both. A little bit of value on the Bears side. I made the number 3.7. So basically 3.5 and 47 on the total. So slight underlean and slight pretty meaningful lean to the Bears at 5.5 if you're able to catch that.
All right. Yeah. 5.5 here at BetMGM. So that's a pretty good number. Danny Brasco's in the chat. He says, I like Jaden Daniels rushing yards. And I guess he's saying an anytime touchdown. So that's interesting there. J.R. Hunt, he says, what's your guys' favorite Halloween movie? Very interesting. I don't know if you're asking the chat or you're asking us. Maybe we'll answer that question later on into the show. We've got my pick to come. We still got some MLB plays to come. Larry, your pick is to come. And we're going to hit it right after this message from our partners.
Critics agree Landman is a hit.
We roll the dice one last time.
Men die. Oil companies don't.
We're back on the early edge, brought to you by BetMGM. Make it legendary. Sniper, I don't know if you have any commentary so far with respect to, I guess, yesterday's game where we kicked off the league championship series. Either way, you've got two picks today, and then we'll go back to football. But talk to me about, are these picks for tonight?
Yeah, both are for tonight. Generally speaking, I think it's been amazing so far. And I have to say yesterday, I don't know how many people here were paying attention to it, but you've got to give so much props to Bryce Miller of the Mariners. The Mariners had no pitching left after that game 5 on Friday night that went 15 innings, went into the middle of the night. It was unbelievable. They had to go with basically their 5th starter who had an ERA well over 5 this season on short rest in game 1. And he went out and he gave up a home run to George Springer in the first inning. And he was amazing after that. He was so good. Major props to Bryce Miller stepping up. The Mariners, as everybody knows here, I'm a Cubs fan, so I have a soft spot for fan bases who have been tortured. The Mariners are the only team in Major League Baseball history. Well, I think in Major League Baseball currently who do not have a World Series championship. Now they're up 1-0 in the ALCS. That would be unbelievable if they advanced. And kudos to the Mariners for stepping up yesterday. And we saw, again, after the Bryce Miller pitching so well, we saw Cal Raleigh step up and hit a bomb. It's been the year of the big dumper. Anyway, I will start in that game. I actually have a play against the Mariners here after I just talked about how great they were, but I'm going to go with Trey Yesavage. Over 5.5 strikeouts. Look, the Mariners do have a sneaky good offense. It's actually way better than the numbers say because T-Mobile Park suppresses offense so much. But they will strike out. They do have a high volume strikeout team. They've never seen Yesavage. He has a power splitter that dives. If anybody watched that playoff game against the Yankees, they were swinging through everything. He had 16 strikeouts in 14 innings in the regular season, 11 strikeouts against the Yankees in the divisional round there. I really like a lot of strikeouts here in this one. And then I'm going to go to Milwaukee, and I'm going to go Andrew Vaughn over 1.5 hits, runs, RBIs. Vaughn is one of the best stories in the season this year. He was awful for the White Sox, just completely unplayable. The Brewers trade for him. And the Brewers are so good at getting the most out of their talent. They've gotten the most out of Andrew Vaughn, a former first-round pick. He hit .320 with a .583 slugging percentage in American Family Field this year. By the way, I wish it was still Miller Park, but it's American Family Field now. He absolutely destroyed left-handers once he joined the Brewers. He hit .403 with a .569 slugging. He had a home run against Shota Imanaga, left-hander for the Cubs in the first round. Blake Snell is a little bit better than Imanaga, and I'm underselling that. He's a lot better. But he's been a little bit worse on the road, and he is a lefty. I like Andrew Vaughn a lot at home against lefties, so I'm going with Vaughn over 1.5 hits, runs, RBIs.
All right. Absolutely love it. Any commentary? And I think people don't even realize that we've got a game at 5 o'clock and a game at 8 o'clock. So it feels like a bit of afternoon baseball, perhaps an appetizer to the 2 Monday night football games. Any thoughts on the side there with that Dodgers Brewers game?
No, look, here's the thing. I know the Dodgers are much more talented, and I know almost everybody's going to be on the Dodgers in this series, but there's just something about the Brewers. There's something there. I don't think they're going to make any mistakes in this series. I could totally see the Dodgers having a throwing error and the Brewers having great base running afterward and winning the game. There's something about the Brewers. I believe they're going to win the series, but the sides are pretty much going to be stay away in this for me because, like I said, Dodgers are more talented, but I feel like there's something going on with the Brewers, so I'm like, I'm not going to play it.
All right. Well, speaking of throwing errors, that's a good transition to my pick and Caleb Williams. I'm just kidding, Sniper. Well, this does implicate Caleb Williams just a little bit.
That was pretty good.
Thank you. As soon as you said that, I was like, all right, I've got my transition point. So everybody knows, if you're a member of SportsLine or if you watch the NFL Prop Show, that I've got Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, but I can't really give out that play right now because the line has moved significantly enough for me to not want to give it out. Again, 67.5 on JCM I think is fine, but I certainly like it better at 63.5. So I'm going to transition to, speaking of Caleb Williams, to Rome Odunze, the number 1 receiver. Now, coming out of the bye, I do think it's possible that other receivers could get involved here, but really like how Rome Odunze lines up specifically against Washington. First of all, he's very clearly the number 1 receiver. And when he's usually the first read, but when we've got Caleb Williams off script, he's usually looking for Rome Odunze because he's usually open or he can get that contested catch for you. His over is 66.5 receiving yards. That's pretty high. I have to admit that. But when you've got a Washington defense that frankly isn't very good on the back end and rushes the passer and plays a lot of man coverage, when Caleb receives that pressure and he sees Rome Odunze manned up against guys like Marshawn Lattimore, for example, he's going to throw the ball to Rome Odunze. And I do think there's some splash plays in here for them. So I know somebody asked about the 4.5 receptions over. I do kind of like that. His longest reception prop is 24.5. I suppose I'd lean that way as well, but I like the total yardage because I think this could be a passing script for Caleb Williams. And it's possible at the very least that this could be a garbage time situation. I don't expect that, but it could be a trailing game script in the second half like the Bears have had very often here early on in the season. So I like Rome Odunze, the primary receiver, over 66.5 receiving yards at -111. Larry, before we get to your pick, PropStarz, go ahead.
Just want to touch on Rome Odunze. I love this look from you, Sia. I think this matchup really lends itself to Rome Odunze and particularly Caleb Williams, going from a very zone-heavy defense in the Raiders to the Commanders defense that plays man coverage at the 9th highest rate. Williams is the QB 11 in EPA per play versus man coverage. However, Rome Odunze versus man coverage, 44% targets per route run, first among every single wide receiver in the NFL. He also has 4.17 yards per route run, which ranks 5th. So he has been absolutely incredible, not to mention heavily targeted versus man coverage this season. So this is a fantastic matchup for Rome Odunze.
Danny Brasco popping in the chat. He says, Rome, 40% target share against man coverage. Washington plays man at a top 10 rate in the league. Let's go to the next pick. We're not done yet. We got your picks that we need to respond to in the chat and your questions. But Larry, we're going back to Bills-Falcons. You're taking the dog at home here.
Yeah, I got this at +5, still fine at 4.5, the home dog here. This is just a great spot. When you get A.J. Terrell, your top cornerback, to a defense that is already top 3 in yards per play, top 3 in DVOA, this is a great spot for Atlanta because what did the Falcons do well? They run the ball with Bjian Robinson and Tyler Algier. They're facing a Buffalo defense, gives up #1 most explosive rushes. They give up over 7 yards a carry on runs to the outside. They're facing a top 10 offensive line in the Falcons. They do get Ed Oliver back, but they don't have Matt Milano. Matt Milano, even when he was in there this year, has not been the same. And you just look at this Bills team. Yes, they deserve the accolades, but who have they beaten? You know, Jets, Saints, Dolphins. That's a pretty easy schedule. 4 of their first 5 games have come at home. They're coming off that loss to the Patriots, so we know they'll be motivated. We know Josh Allen's going to put up some big numbers inside where he always plays well. But his leading receiver, Dalton Kincaid, is also questionable. So that could be another factor that keeps this close. I just think the Falcons are going to have so much success running the ball. And I think their defense is going to step up when they need it and get a couple of key stops to cover this number. I think the Falcons are a team that is better than their record, and they're about to go on a little run here.
All right, Falcons +4.5. Mike, I want to get to the Q&A portion of this show, and Bryce Nah, maybe some relation to Kevin Nah there. That would be amazing. Over 49.5 in Chicago, Washington. I think you might have mentioned this. I'm not sure. Any play on the total in that game?
No play on it. If I had to play it, it would be the under at 49.5.
All right, Jason Pogwa says Allen first touchdown and Caleb first touchdown parlay. Wow. Okay, that's actually possible.
That's 100. That's
167 to 1. I'm not gonna lie. I don't hate that. Larry, go ahead.
Did you see the tickets on the people that had Jared Goff first touchdown for $500,000?
I did not see that.
Yeah, and they had 5,000. Somebody had a $5,000 ticket on that, and obviously they get credited with the touchdown, and then they call the illegal formation, which is not reviewable upstairs. Interesting and a tough way to lose $500,000.
Man, that's brutal.
That, to me, somebody putting $5,000 on that almost feels like they got tipped off that there was going to be a trick play early involving specifically Jared Goff. Because who puts $5,000 down on a first touchdown? Like, what are we doing? That's
some guy with
millionaires.
I know, but still.
Sorry, maybe it was 500. I know the payoff was 450 or 500,000.
That's incredible. Does anybody have any commentary as to whether that should have been called back? I mean, the rule seems kind of finicky in terms of how they apply it. Anybody, Mike? It looks like you have some.
Yeah, I mean, and completely unbiased take as a Kansas City Chiefs fan, I think that it was clearly an illegal formation. Like per the definition of the rule, it was. Yeah, I think that it's unfortunate that they got together and took it away at that point, but the real, it should have been a flag pretty immediately. The officiating crew just simply missed it.
Fair enough. There was a flag yesterday. I think it was on a Drake May pass, an offensive OPI call on Stephon Diggs. And I had Drake May in DFS. He ended up getting a touchdown on that drive anyway. It was the weirdest, most phantom. I don't know if anybody caught that. It was a late flag on an OPI that had nothing to do with the play. Absolutely crazy, in my opinion.
On the big Stephon Diggs play?
Yes. Yeah, it was a touchdown. It was another one to Kayshon Boutte. Anyway, let's go to the next one. James Rainwater says, Josh Allen, 200+ passing yards, two passing touchdowns, and 25+ rushing for +190. Okay, so 200+ seems attainable. 2 passing touchdowns seems somewhat attainable. PropStarz, any thoughts on that?
That's an incredible game to only get +190, so I don't think it's priced properly.
All right, so we probably would stay away from that, but certainly plausible. Josh Davis says Tyler Algier over 7.5 rush attempts at -110. Larry, any thoughts on that? You like Atlanta. Do we see a lot of Tyler Algier in this game as well?
I think we see a lot of both of them. I like Tyler Algier with his rushing yards in the low 30s there. I think he could get up to 40 yards. Yeah, I think they're going to run the ball, which is what they do. They're like 28th or 30th in pass rate, below expectation. That's what they want to do. And this is a matchup that sets up well.
PropStarz Philip Terrazas says +250. And I don't know if you like this market or not. And that's mainly why I'm asking you to maybe comment a macro on the market. +250 on Shane Steichen, Coach of the Year.
I think that's a good look. That's the look I was talking about when the odds were longer. Here, to me, that's probably like what it'll sit on if Indy remains in first place for the remainder of the season. So not something I'm jumping on at +250. Certainly looked to be a really strong look 3 to 4 weeks ago. But yeah, I definitely agree. He's the leading candidate thus far.
Sniper, the next question is for you on the Blue Jays, but I do have to comment on this market because preseason and last week, I liked Sean Payton to win Coach of the Year at around 27-1. The number was the same preseason as it turns out. Is anybody else shocked at how bad Denver was against an incredibly awful Jets team, especially on offense? The fact that I didn't hit that alt line teaser, it was because of that game, because they won by 2 instead of 3. Anybody want to comment on the Broncos offense here? I just couldn't believe how bad they were. Anyone?
I mean, you got a Jets defense that was a little bit better than usual. They got Jermaine Johnson back. It was kind of a weird spot after that great win they had over the Eagles. But yeah, there's no excuse for them to be as bad as they were. But the Jets having negative passing yards, net -10 passing yards for the whole game is pretty unconscionable. They are just an absolute laughingstock right now. And they're coming home and they are still favored over the Carolina Panthers at home.
That's interesting. All right, let's go to the Blue Jays -130, says Rick Funcannon. And Joe, he's not a Toronto fan. He's a Minnesota fan, but he wants to know bounce back for the Blue Jays.
I mean, yeah, I can see that. I mean, their offense, they're usually so good at home. To see them hit a leadoff home run and then score nothing the rest of the game, especially when they had Miller on the ropes in the first inning after that home run, and it looked like, oh man, they're going to score 4 or 5 runs in the first inning. I do think the Blue Jays bounce back in this one. And also somebody asked about Trey Savage ladder the strikeouts on that. I don't want to go that crazy about it. I have over 5.5 here. I do think he gets to 6 or 7, but anything past that, I'm just not sure he's going to pitch that deep into the game where he could get to 11 again. The Yankees, that was really, really a rough strikeout game for the Yankees. And it was to the extreme. And that's why the line is 5.5, not like 7 or 8.5.
Scott Davis says Winnipeg Jets 60-minute line +140 and Florida Panthers 60-minute line +110. And apparently that's some morning hockey. I didn't realize we had morning hockey today, so that's on me. Let's see. Ray Brown, this is an interesting question. We know Darnell Mooney is out. He says, will Drake London look like Diggs tonight? Proppy, any thoughts there? I know his receiving line, it's pretty high in that 70.5 range, but it does feel like Drake London and Kyle Pitts are due for a lot of targets, especially if we think the Bills jump out ahead in this one.
Yeah, I also don't think Michael Penix has been as bad as some of the narrative has been regarding him, and he certainly likes Drake London, and Drake London since last year has been playing really good football. So, yeah, I would agree that Drake London's set for a massive target share. No Darnell Mooney in the lineup. Already have a very condensed target distribution. So, yeah, this is a good matchup for Drake London. I expect him to be heavily targeted, probably somewhere between 10 and 14 targets, and has massive upside here. So I like Drake London quite a bit.
All right. Ramos says, hey, team, thoughts on Roma Dunze over 4.5 receptions? Yeah, I kind of lean that way as well, along with my over on his yards. Go ahead, PropStarz.
Just going to say regarding Adunze's receptions, I did look at both of these. I prefer your look, Sia, on the yards, just because of his ability to draw targets in the splash zone. That's deep down the center of the field, the most difficult portion of the field to get the most valuable targets are splash zone targets, and he gets targeted heavily in that area of the field. It's also very difficult to cover that area of the field. So he's such an explosive downfield threat. Caleb's going to look his way. He could get 65 yards in a single reception. So I love Roma Dunze's yards, but I do lean over on the receptions as well.
Jim Sugar is the coolest name ever. Jim, I haven't seen you in this chat before. Thanks for joining the show. Make sure you're subscribed to the SportsLine YouTube channel and to the Early Edge podcast, of course. Jaden Daniels he meant to say under 43.5 rush yards at -115. Does anyone want to weigh in here? We do know the Bears play a lot of man coverage as well, and that always is good for a rushing quarterback, or I should say a scrambling quarterback. I do think there's a scenario where Jaden Daniels relies on his legs a little bit more, especially with an unreliable receiver core once you get past Deebo Samuel, who I expect to play. I would lean to the over here just because of the scrambling and not necessarily because of the design runs. Anybody want to weigh in here on the over or the under?
I would lean over just because of how bad the Bears are against the run. I think Bill and Jaden Daniels are both going to have really nice games on the ground.
Mr. Heat, this is a good one. Mike, I'm going to go to you on a team total here. Any thoughts on a Bears team total over 21.5?
It's going to be no for me on playing it over. Let me give you my exact number. I have a right at 25 points or 21.6 to 25.3. It's dead on. I lean under in the game. I would not touch it.
Sniper, we need your analysis on this team total over as the homer here.
He just said 21.6 to 25 something. That's clearly over 21.5. So he definitely should have said over. Come on, Mike.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I don't know if we have
that's my full analysis. I can't get over that somebody's named Sugar in the chat because all that does is make me think of Jerry Maguire.
Yeah, fair enough. I don't know if that's Jim. I don't know if that's your real name or not, but either way, love seeing catchy names in the chat. They're super fun to say. Jim Sugar and Mr. Heat sound like Brasco and Buckets Burners. That sounds very accurate. I think we might be done with if you have last minute questions, put them in the chat, but let's get to our first touchdown scores before we get to the recap screen and get everybody out of here. I'm going to go with Khalil Shakir. It was actually between Khalil Shakir in this Bills game and Zach Ertz in the Washington game, and that's because of just a lack of receivers and pass catchers for Washington this week. But Khalil Shakir, I actually think is going to have a pretty nice game for Buffalo. I like the matchup for him. He's my first touchdown score at plus 1,500. Larry, talk to me about Deebo Samuel. By the way, we have modified the rules here a little bit. We don't like just always only having the option of 10-1 or greater. So we now can pick anybody we want in any of these games for prime time. So talk to me about a sub 1,000 pick here, Larry. Deebo Samuel.
Yeah, well, I expect him to play despite the bruised heel. There's no Terry McLaurin. There's no Noah Brown. He's scored 4 times already this year, including a rushing touchdown. He gets a 30% of the red zone targets. They throw it to him when they're inside the 10, 60% of the time. So it does set up well for Deebo Samuel.
Mike McClure, James Cook.
Yeah, I'll take the obvious chalk here at 5-1 on James Cook. I like the Bills. I have a meaningful edge on the side on the Bills. And when you do that, we're looking at, the more likely touchdown scorers being Josh Allen or James Cook. I think James Cook has a big game starting with the opening drive of this game.
Barely Mental says you don't get in the club with low ones, though. Okay, so that's still true. That's still true. The low ones count, and they're going to be better than the long ones because that's just the nature of odds. But you only get in the club with a 10-1 or longer. That's it. Barely Mental. Thanks for the throwback comment there. We very much appreciate it. Sniper, I think this is my favorite one. You give me a tight end for a first touchdown score. You give me a guy that's always under the radar. We keep talking about Colston Loveland, and Cole Kmet just keeps producing 25-1 in maybe a high-scoring affair where the Bears absolutely could score first.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, he only gets targeted 4 or 5 times a game, if that. But hey, if it happens, around the red zone, then I think he's a good look here. Really, I just wanted to have the highest number, so I'm glad that I got that.
Congratulations, Roma Dunze. This is one of my favorites. I hope this doesn't come in because I'm a Washington fan. I want them to score first, last, and all of the ones in the middle. Talk to me about Roma Dunze at plus 1,200.
Yeah, I love Roma Dunze tonight. Love Roma Dunze all season long, for that matter. I've also seen some wild discrepancy between this number and on other books. So yeah, I think this number of plus 1,200 is a great value. I think it should be closer to around plus 800 or 900 personally, considering he's had a touchdown in every game, and yeah, he looks like a strong contender to lead the NFL in touchdowns.
I drafted Roma Dunze in all my big money leagues, literally all of them. Well, there's only 3 big money. It's not like huge money, but my somewhat significant money leagues, Roma Dunze is on all those teams. Unfortunately, I've just been rocked with injuries. So I think that's the story of like 80% of the fantasy football community, which is, side note, why I absolutely love DFS. Do not forget to lock into fantasy football today. DFS. All right. I think, does anybody have any last minute questions that they saw in the chat or any last minute comments on Monday Night Football or Major League Baseball before we get to the recap screen? If so, hand up.
I have a
Go ahead,
last
Sniper.
minute question. I'm down by 8 points and I have James Cook and Caleb Williams against Josh Allen. Am I going to win?
What's the format?
PPR, no.
Standard PPR. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes,
I think you're going to win.
James Cook will run. We'll have the rushing touchdowns.
Yes,
I agree.
That's a good one. You're gonna have to update us on next
we'll
time you're on or on Twitter.
But
Larry,
I wouldn't hate the idea of hedging if the league is important to you with a Josh Allen anytime touchdown bet.
Yeah.
Just a solo, just one.
Yeah.
You can still get that and win the league pretty easily. But if Josh Allen doesn't get a rushing touchdown, I'd say you're very likely to win that. So
this is interesting. Gipper's pick says sprinkle Ty Johnson and Ray Davis last touchdown at plus 8,000 and plus 9,000. I don't hate that. Again, we're assuming a game script where they're up and they're, got their backups in. Ty Johnson, Davis, a couple of bucks on each of those at 80 and 90 to 1. I think that's a good look. Zach Ertz first touchdown, says Kevin Charles at plus 1,400. I know others were saying they've got plus 1,300. So yeah, I like Zach Ertz as a first touchdown score. Eric David says, I need 23.5 from Bjian in half PPR. I'm alive, but barely. I think you're very much alive there. Could be a nice game.
You might have missed the comment in the chat where they said that our photos look like we're all regional bank managers. And I just got a kick out of that one.
That is pretty funny. Regional bank managers. All right. Let's get to what is it with these headshots making y'all look like? Okay, out of time says. What headshots is he talking about? From the recap screen? Those headshots?
The first touchdown recap.
Okay. All right. Well, this is a good time to get to the recap screen because I think you can see the headshots yet again, although these are different, aren't they? Roma Dunze over 66.5 receiving yards, minus 111. Don't forget on SportsLine, I put in the Jacory Krosky-Merritt prop over 63.5 rushing yards. I'm still okay with it at 67.5, but obviously I like the 63.5 a lot more. Falcons plus 4.5, says Larry Hartstein at minus 112. Mike McClure, Bills first half team total over 13.5 at minus 114. And PropStarz, James Cook over 70.5 rushing yards at minus 110. Trey Yesavage over 5.5 Ks at plus 106. And Andrew Vaughn over 1.5 hits and runs RBIs at plus 111. Now we got some sports line picks for you. Michael Penix Jr. over 6.5 rushing yards, minus 110, says RJ White. And the Bears, Sniper's Bears, plus 5, minus 118, says Brady Cannon and Emory Hunt. All right, we got our first touchdown scores. Khalil Shakir, Deebo Samuel, James Cook, Cole Kmet, and Rome Odunze are your first touchdown scores for either of these games. A lot of you in the chat liked some other first touchdown scores, including Zach Ertz. Mutanda says, great show, everybody. Very much appreciated. Good stuff from Ben, always on the 1s and 2s and 3s and 4s. And by the way, Ben went 1 for 2. He probably should have gone 2 for 2 with that Maryland play because they dominated the second half, if memory serves. But really sharp play from him on Seattle at Jacksonville. What do I always tell you all about Trevor Lawrence? Thank you, Larry. Thank you, Sniper. Thank you, PropStarz. Thank you, Mike. I always got to get my Trevor Lawrence shots in there. And maybe tomorrow I'll be delivering some Caleb Williams shots. And if he has a good game, Sniper, you got to make a guest appearance on the show and rub it in.
Oh, I'm on
my face. Oh, you're on tomorrow?
It won't be a guest appearance. I'm on.
My bad. I should have looked at the schedule. What a great show, Sniper, you and me. It's a bit of a showdown, if you will. A little bit of a showdown. All right, ladies and gentlemen, have a great Monday Night Football experience. We got the playoffs starting at 5. We've got NHL day games. Thanks to Scott Davis for some picks in the chat. If you all want to put picks in the chat, you're always welcome to. We'll try to give you a shout out every single time. This has been the Early Edge, folks. We rest our case.